Victor,
Steffi.
why do you always sit like this?
Because I'm mad.
Why
I don't
you
know.
mad?
I'm cold, We don't have the heater.
Heating here because we can't afford? No,
No,
that's not true.
But it's generally true. We don't turn on the heater in here because it gets hot after a while, and we stay in here for a couple of hours. So at the beginning of a recording, it's usually a little bit chilly.
But like when you sit like this, it always cramp your arms. Like it always feels like, oh no, I need to protect myself in front of Steffi.
No. I'm an old man. I'm grumpy, and I'm like, no, I disagree with everything. Stuff used to be better when I was young,
Wow.
Wow Happens with Stephanie Hitchens and Victor Kunzig.
Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Wow Happens, where our main topic is being a creator the wrong dream, or what alternatives are there, like the rise of professional creators? Steffi, professional creators. I think we are those, but before we get into that, maybe we can explain what a professional creator is.
Yeah, I think for this we need to first take these different terms apart. So at first there were the influencers. Like 10 years ago, I think around this time it started. Everyone wanted to be an influencer. And then we have the Paris Hiltons and these kind of people who have a huge following of millions and millions of people. And then people realized some years ago, hey, not everyone has so many followers, and there came the terms of micro and nano influencers who have only this amount of followers. But this all misses a little bit the point if we go in the business world. And so then some years ago, the term creator came, and with it the creator economy and all these things. And so a creator is normally someone who is not trying to reach millions of people. They have a little bit smaller numbers. And the creator term is also a little bit nicer, right? Because the influencer is actually more like a negative term.
There is a negative stigma around it, yeah.
Yeah, and it also hey, I'm an influencer, so I influence you. You are not influenced.
I am being influenced right
You are
now.
being influenced, right?
Yes.
And the creator, these words come from create, right? So it's more like the activity you are doing, and so I think it's also seen a bit more positive.
Yeah, content creators also.
Yeah, content creators. Exactly. And then we have the professional creators. I think this is quite a new term. And a professional creator is someone who does what a creator does, but has normally a smaller reach, but therefore an audience that trusts them more. And the big difference is that they don't try to build this huge audience and get money from them on the platform where they are creating, for example, through ad revenues or sponsorships of videos. No, they try to convert their audience to a different offering. So, for example, an online course or a consulting or a software as a service business or an agency business, this kind of things. And so the main money-making situation of a professional creator is not the video or social media platform, it's their core business.
They use the social media platforms to sort of gather attention for their main business or services.
Yeah, attention is an interesting word here, right? Because I think attention is not enough. So what you need to create trust. So on the one hand, yes, you want to increase your following. But on the other hand, what is actually interesting is to have the right people and they really consume your content and start trusting you. So you are for example, as a professional creator, you are a thought leader or an advisor or a consultant, and they really trust your method. Or over time, hopefully they trust your method. And the interesting thing is influencers, the old kind, the B2C version, basically, they need really millions of followers, right? So that it makes sense. You you know from your own channel how much money you make with
A lot.
with AdSense. You really need a lot of views on YouTube to make money through that.
Yeah.
And the professional creator, they need less people. Like actually, you can build a viable business with 5,000 to 50,000 followers, roughly, as a North Star, so that you have an idea. So you don't need millions, you need some thousands. And then these followers, or this process of like nurturing them, they build trust, and then at one point they convert outside of this platform and probably also buy something high ticket price from you. That doesn't need so many people. And this is obviously really interesting to business owners, to CEOs, or people who are higher up in companies. They can position themselves as a thought leader, build their audience. They trust more and more, and then convert and buy something from that company.
So how does this differ from the creator economy, which we hear so often about?
Do we hear so often about the creator
I
economy?
think you hear about it all the time. Like,
Yeah, me too. But on the other hand, I think actually, like, our listeners probably not so much. But who knows? Maybe tell us. I think the difference to the creator economy is that this is really more built, or these patterns they talk about and what is considered creator economy is like really making money on the social media platform or on the video platform. It's not so much that it converts externally. And there are obviously different rules apply, right? Like if you only want that the person who's watching your video watches the next video, that's a very little ask. And then at the end of the video, you show, hey, you can watch this other video if you want. But actually, as a professional creator, you probably need more to use the description of the video, to say, hey, go to my website. Hey, if you want to learn more, like here you can deep dive on it. Or here I have the full course, a 6-hour video to do something. These are the content that probably work better as a professional creator. And I think, as I understand the creator economy, this is not what they talk about. They focus on how to build the audience and how to increase your reach and make you even more famous. You know, that's what it's about in the creator economy. You look like you don't agree with my assessment of the creator economy. What do you think?
No, I mean, if I look at least the creators that I'm following, you know, a lot of them have additional courses or things that they sell. You know, the narrative that they have is they were making videos first, and then the business sort of came out of that, you know. And this is also not something new. You had this forever, you know, actors in Hollywood and other celebrities, they always have a side business. Over the last couple of years, what, for example, became very prominent is that a lot of celebrities are selling alcohols, or all kinds of alcohols. I don't know why that is. It's a strange occurrence if you ask me, but, you know, like everybody has a gin or a vodka or a tequila, one of those, right? And it's the same thing, right? They were first being famous for being an actor or actress, or I don't know. And then they spun out additional businesses. But the professional creator is the other perspective. You first have a business. For example, I have a whiskey distillery, right? And
Of course you have.
that's not the case. I wish I did, and it would be cool if I had like a little...
You would need permits here in this country for
I would
this.
move to Scotland, to Islay, and, you know, sit next to Lagavulin. No. Let's say I would have a whiskey distillery, right? And what would I do? I want to bring my whiskey to more people. So I figure out a way to market it, right? And doing it on YouTube or another social platform is a very good way. And in the past, you could have just, you know, hired a marketing agency to do some fancy ads. But these days, you do it yourself. Either that, or you hire a creator, or you just, you know, give whiskeys to creators. I don't know if that actually exists. But you're trying to talk to your customers directly these days. That's what you want to do, right? Because if they trust you, like you said before, right? they're so much more inclined to actually buy that bottle of whiskey. If you see a famous actor then saying like, hey, I promote this bottle of whiskey, I have nothing to do with this bottle of whiskey, but I promote it, it just has this typical old-fashioned ad feeling, right? But if you're like, hey, I am the master distiller here at Victor's Distillery, or Victor's Whiskey, Victor's Scottish Whiskey. Wow, the brand is developing. And I made this whiskey based on this, and this, and I like this, and that, right? People be like, oh, I'm actually talking to the master distiller, right? I'm trusting this person because he seems to know what he's talking about. I'm not when it comes to whiskey. And then you build this relationship, right? And when you buy that whiskey, it's not just I'm buying this whiskey because I saw this person talk about it, but I know the history of this whiskey. I was kind of part of the developing process, imaginative maybe, but it sort of feels like this sometimes.
Let me jump in here because it's really interesting what you said. Yes, the business exists before you became a creator or before you become a creator. And but then there is also the feedback loop. So when you are a professional creator, then you get insights from your audience. Like you do in your YouTube videos where people tell you, hey, did you try this and that? And this also works as a professional creator. You actually learn what your audience really wants. And maybe, let's take the Victor's Whiskey, Scottish Whiskey.
Victor's Scottish Whiskey.
So you as a whiskey distillery owner, Victor's Scottish Whiskey, you will learn from your audience what their taste is actually. And so maybe next year you will produce a whiskey that is more to the taste of your audience. Or they ask you new questions you have never thought about. And so you learn and you maybe offer new products, or you maybe even offer a side product, like, I don't know.
Beer.
Beer, or like I wanted to say like boxes for whiskey bottles, or, like you do brand extensions, maybe. Like all these things that direct access to your audience actually allows you to do. And that is the second important point you made. You as the professional creator, you have the direct access. You are selling directly to your customers, and your customers usually B2B, or at least people who think as this is a career thing, that I'm now listening to you and that I'm maybe buying from you. So it's not just for leisure. You also really make sure as a professional creator that your audience learns something, because then they actually can trust you. And this brings me to once more this distinction between just audience growth or reach and trust, because the trust is one of the fundamental things of a professional creator. You create trust. And there's maybe also a regional difference. Like if I look at America, you have a huge market. So many people are in the American market and potentially your customer. And so you need to go more to, it makes sense to do more reach, right? Because you want 1 million people listening to you.
The potential is very big in the States.
The potential is really big. And at the same time, what we also, like if you look globally, what we see in big markets is that the need for legal protection gets bigger. So in America, you very fast do like a very detailed contract with like clear scopes of work and like who is liable and all these things. And this is very similar in China, where you don't have this developed legal system, but still businesses all the time say, hey, we have so much competition here and they really need to protect themselves. And if you now look at Europe, businesses work a little bit different here. You have like, yes, you also have a unified market, but you have like all these different countries with different languages and
cultural differences.
And there is a value to buy from someone who understands your culture and your way of doing business. And so I think, especially as a European professional creator, there is even more value in optimizing for trust than for reach.
Actually, I have a really good example for this where the trust factor is very apparent, right? On YouTube, there's this very interesting niche of woodworkers or carpenters, right? And there's this one guy who makes these giant wooden tables, right? And his business is making these tables. He sells these tables, right? And he doesn't need to have a huge audience of millions of followers because his primary goal is to sell his tables. And he also doesn't sell them internationally, he only sells them locally because, well, giant wood table is very difficult to ship across the planet, right? He basically just documents the making of each of these tables, which is fantastic because if I was to, if I had my whiskey distillery and wanted in my distillery to have a giant table for my team to have lunch and whatnot, I would think like, okay, he's also on Islay in Scotland. We're going all in on this theme.
Of course.
And he's also there. It's fantastic. I've seen his work. I really like what he does. And he seems to know what he's doing because, it's very detailed. And I don't know that much about woodworking, but it looks very, professional. And if I buy one of his tables, right, which is very expensive, he already reached his goal. And if he sells, I don't know, he doesn't make a table per month. I don't know how long it takes him to make one of these tables, but if you sell a couple of these per year, that's sufficient enough for him, depending on the price, of course, to sustain himself. So his reach doesn't need to be that big. He only needs to reach the next person who's going to buy that table, right?
Yeah, I think this is also the advantage of everyone who does something physical.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool, right? And it's also, it has these aspects of ASMR, of like, oh yeah, I'm now doing
especially
this
woodworking where you see the wood being chipped away and all that stuff. It's nice.
Exactly. But this also applies to people who create digital stuff. Like I have so many people I follow who do exactly this, like they create courses, they create or they offer coaching, all these kind of things, and they have tiny audience, we have a tiny audience. Hello, but they have like some thousand followers, and clearly they can live from it.
Yeah. I mean, animation creators are a good example as well. They sell courses to how to do animation, right?
Yeah. Now let's make it specific.
More whiskey.
More whiskey for you. How do you actually start to be a professional creator?
Get a camera pointed at you. No.
Yeah, in the end, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like with all marketing initiatives, you have to first define what is the goal? What do you want to achieve with this, And you have to find the right angle for you. If we take the whiskey distillery again, right? It makes sense to explain how the whiskey is being made. Right? That just comes natural because that's something that people are interested in. But you can expand it to also, how the bottle is being designed, what's the history and whatnot, and et cetera, right? But if we take the woodworking example again, it's kind of the same, but there it's more immediate, right? Because you see the table being made, right? Every video, as an example, is one table being made, right? With the whiskey, that's actually not possible. Just to make one correction for anybody who's listening to this podcast and actually knows something about whiskey, you cannot immediately make the feedback from the people and implement that in your whiskey because, they need to age for 16, 17 years.
Of course.
So it's a much longer process of integrating the feedback of your audience. But you have to take that into account. How do you want to present your craft or what you are producing? That's very important.
Yeah, I think the strategy, the marketing strategy, the tactics you want to do are really, really important. And also you need to choose what is the right platform.
Yes.
Right? Like you can start on LinkedIn, for example, or you maybe even start on Instagram and TikTok, which is fine as well.
Yeah.
Or you start on YouTube.
Yeah.
But one thing you like, especially if you now look into the platforms, what you what you need to take into consideration is like the long-term effect of your content. Because if you go to Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and X,
Oh yeah, that exists.
this is all very short term. So maybe your posts have an effect for the next 2-3 days, and if you're good, maybe for the next week or maybe for the next 2 weeks, but then no one cares anymore.
It's gone. It disappears in the pile.
It's completely gone. Yeah. And then we have like YouTube. And YouTube is super hard to start on. Hello, 16 followers on YouTube, or 17 maybe. But the thing is, you build a long-term audience. Yeah. And if you do it right, your videos will be found later and still contribute to your channel, even though you created them like a year ago or 2 years. And so you build your audience long-term and slowly on YouTube, whereas on social media you are faster. But then it's really hard to build the trust over time.
Yeah. But this also heavily depends on what kind of a business you have. You know, if we take the whiskey distillery or the woodworking example again, I think the longevity of those videos or whatever type of content you create is much higher because those products have a long lifespan, right? Yeah. But let's say you're an AI company, right?
AI consultant.
AI consultant, right? AI changes by the second, so it's already changed everything since I started the sentence. So if I make a video there on YouTube, the longevity of that video isn't going to be that big because it's gone, right? So a platform maybe like X or Threads or Blue Sky or one of these is much more befitting to that type of topic, right? So you have to also make sure that whatever you are doing, like what your business is, there is a right place for that type of, content.
Yeah. And it's a question, what is the half-life of your content? So like when you have content, like it has the highest value in that moment, right? And how long does it keep at least half of its value? And yes, in the example of AI, or maybe before it was a crypto bubble or whatever, the half-life is quite short because there's so heavy development.
Yeah.
But if you go to something woodworking again, or distilling whiskey, the half-life,
Scottish whiskey,
the half-life gets really, really long.
Yes, my whiskey has a very long lifespan. It's great.
And then the third aspect for me is also your own performance. And this is the thing that was, or still is, the hardest for me. So like I started to create my first video in 2013, and my first video I published was in 2022.
Just a little late.
A little bit late. Because I felt like I was so terrible in front of the camera. And I had to learn this, and I had to experience this, how it is to be in front of the camera. And still, every time we are doing this here, I'm learning something, and hopefully I'm getting better. But this is really important also to at least have the awareness about that. It can be quite difficult to be in front of the camera. And then, if it is really difficult for you, I would recommend to throw away everything you have defined before. And start small and just record something, because that is more important than that it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, don't try to do 20-minute YouTube videos or 90-minute YouTube ASMR videos. Do 60 seconds.
Yeah. It goes a little bit, or actually very much, into a previous episode of ours where we talked about the format, the format on YouTube. And in that aspect, I think professional creators and regular creators are very much the same. You have to find a format that matches you or the person who's hosting the videos, right? Because otherwise, this just isn't going to work long time. It's going to fall apart at some point. And you have the same issues with burnout and all that stuff because it's the same thing, right?
Exactly.
It's just the starting point or the direction. The motivation, let's call it that, is different.
And so I think you should become a professional creator. And with this, Victor, what is your wow this week?
Believe it or not, Steffi, hold on to your butt. It's a text editor.
At least it's not a note-taking tool. It's a general text editor.
Yeah, that's true, but it's very close to it. For seasoned viewers and whiskey lovers, in the past, I've talked a lot about, finding the right note-taking app and writing app for myself, right? And I have found those on macOS. I use IA Writer. I still have difficulty saying that name. But every now and then when I work on my YouTube scripts, I want to do it on the phone. Sometimes I don't want to take out the laptop, or I'm just, the situation doesn't allow it. You just want to work on it on your phone. And since all the files from IA Writer are Markdown files, I was looking for a text editor to actually do that on mobile because, I don't know, text
They have a mobile app.
Yeah, but it's $30.
Yeah, but it's a one-time payment.
Yeah, but
and it's developed in Zurich.
It's
and
still
Tokyo.
$30.
What not to laugh about it,
I
Victor?
already paid $50 for the big one, and I was like, I only use this very occasionally that I want to edit text files on mobile. So I found this app called Runestone iOS, right? And it's very simple. It's free. There is obviously, you can pay for it if you want, but the free version does enough for me. And it just syncs with iCloud. It just shows you all the recent iCloud text files, which is fantastic because I never have to go into a folder or look for it. It looks clean, looks nice, easy to edit, good functionality buttons. Nice. Runestone iOS, very much like. What's your wow?
IA Writer. No,
No,
I'm kidding.
I was like, what?
No. My app is called Monologue, and it used to be a Mac-only app where you press a button and then you basically dictate to the Mac what you want, and it does really good quality. And since last week, they have an iOS app, which A, has then the shared settings, B, has a really fantastic transcription, and which also stays true to what you are saying and not tries to make it too artificial and so on. It's really nice. And it works for me in German and in English, which is also really great. And the best thing, so all these iOS transcription apps, they work now by providing a custom keyboard. So they are integrated in the system through a custom keyboard. So you press the globe button to switch the keyboard, and then it opens up.
Yeah.
And this is not special. But all the other apps, what they do is they show you a regular keyboard. And then there's a small button for the transcription. And this Monologue app, what they did is they made a huge start transcription or the start dictation button.
Okay.
And it's so easy to hit.
Okay.
And that, alone this is worth the app. And the price is fair. It costs $8 or $10 or something like this per month for both versions. It's really fast. It's really good. Doesn't run locally, puts everything into the cloud. I don't care. Monologue.
It's a very nice monologue about monologue.
Exactly.
And with that monologue finished, let's finish our monologue.
Yes. No, you do your monologue for finishing this here.
Okay, monologue. No, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments or thoughts about what we talked today, please leave them down in the comments below. And see you again next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is produced by Crew. Our director of photography is Abim Bollan Undangunchu. Edited by Helena Inzinger. Animation by Mamoon Brahma. Intro sound by Jonas Benfio. Marketing by Emilia Geisel. Post-production supervision by Christian Kutschan. Produced by Viktor Künzig. And your hosts, Viktor Künzig and me, Stefanie Hettjens.